So first of all, does anybody recognize Garrett? Probably not a familiar face to most, but maybe somebody might recognize this photo that was in the news sometime a little while ago now. So this is Garrett in the middle of surfing a 30-meter, 100-foot wave in Nazaré in Portugal in 2013. What makes this even more remarkable is the fact that no one had ever dared go in these waters before to surf. They'd killed loads of fishermen over the years in these seas, and had always been deemed unsurfable. So yeah, just take a moment just to imagine what that must have been like for him stood on there. This puts it in perspective when you see the size of these people down here. So how did Garrett surf a 100-foot wave? So first of all, he thought big and he challenged the status quo. He refused to accept that these waters were unsurfable, and he took it on himself to prove them wrong. Oops. He brought the problem down and composed a team of experts. So he accepted when he got there that there's no way that I can achieve this on my own. In fact, the first few attempts he nearly died, his wife nearly died, and several of his friends nearly died. So he recognized he's going to need a team of people who can help him. And this is things like specialist jet ski drivers, people who knew the tides, inflatable suit creators, all sorts of different people were involved in delivering that. He ensured his team operated as one. So this was all around the training that he put in place. So he trained for months, even years actually, ahead of managing to pull this off. So it was all about making sure that these people would work well together. He changed things that weren't working. So this is a real key one. So there were times where he had to swap his driver. There were times where he had to redesign his inflation suit. Things that he had to do just to kind of keep things going and keep there's a chance of succeeding. And most importantly, he expected the unexpected. So actually, on the day that he caught his record-breaking save, he hadn't even intended to surf, and he just happened to have his board with him that he always carried just in case. And this really puts the mindset of a marketer who needs to be prepared for what's going on. So why am I telling you about Garrett? Not really related to Sitecore and CMSs, but there are a lot of similarities between the technology approach taken by the modern performance-driven organization and how he approached solving the problem of surfing this 100-foot wave. So before we go into that, I think it's worth just taking a little step back into the evolution of marketing technology over this last decade. So starting from 2011, the glory days of just 150 platforms, and if you're in the industry, you probably recognize almost all of them, to last year where there was 8,000 of those platforms and you need a microscope to see what those logos are. No one can know all of them, understand all of them. So yeah. So let's just taking a little step back as to kind of how we've evolved through that period. So in 2011, like I said, 150 platforms out there. Architectures were very closely coupled. MVC was not even widespread. Systems were being built on old web form technologies. And at the time, Agile goes mainstream, so the world was full of badly written user stories and people claiming to be Scrum Masters and not really knowing what they were doing. And there was a push towards the all-in-one DXP started. So, and at the time, the CMS was very much at the core of the system. It was kind of, let's start with the website content and then start wrapping features around it. By 2016, we're up to 2,000 platforms around the world. And AWS and Azure are the words of the day. It's all about going into the cloud. There's lots of growth around software as a service-based OTT marketing products, so the likes of Exponia and some of these other platforms are making a name for themselves in the wider space. And everyone's talking about cookie policies and freaking out about GDPR. First generation CMSs and EMSs are reaching the maturity, and this is Episerve, Sitecore XP. They've been around for a while now, and they're reaching that mature point, and they're looking at product extension strategies and how they're going to get more out of first generation platforms, really. But no one's using the full feature set, and I think it was becoming apparent that although there's a great vision to have a single solution system, we're probably in reality never going to kind of tick all the boxes for a number of reasons, and I'll come into that in a moment. And CRM integration is the key point at this point, so it's all Microsoft Dynamics integrations, Salesforce integrations, big enterprise IT projects that we're trying to interface the website with. Be really interested to see the ROI on some of those projects. So I think, which is probably why the environment's changed a lot since. And then coming into the modern day, 8,000 platforms. And what we're noticing now is that a lot of these other systems, the marketing platforms, the OTT solutions, I think, are starting to broaden their service offerings. So DXP space is becoming quite competitive with peripheral markets. So we're having things like platforms like Digital are going into automation. We've got other platforms going into personalization. So the DXP space is under a lot of pressures from all angles. There's also a growing appetite across the industry for subscription-based licensing. So people are wanting to reduce these big capex budgets. You know, gone are the days of people having £2 million to spend on a website. You know, they might get 10 grand a month of a marketing budget or something like that. And there's quite a bit of frustration has been built up with with classic DXPs across the board, and the composed architecture is starting to rise up. And the big shift now is that the customer data platform is now at the heart of the system. So content is being pushed further to one side, and it's now all around the central user profile, the single customer view. That's what you start from. And the services that wrap around that, SSO platforms, all of this kind of stuff. And then looking ahead to the next 5 years, let's stop counting. Whenever that guy's going to have to give up his job because all he'll be doing is adding logos to that picture all day. So yeah, Web 3.0 is what the next big change is, the decentralized web. So this is all around the internet of blockchains, essentially. And if you're into cryptocurrencies, you'll see, and you follow that closely, you'll see what's happening there is about to take over the world. So mass disruption by dApps, decentralized applications. Trust, security, and privacy are driving all of this. Cryptocurrencies, NFTs, metaverse. These are all words that we're going to have to get really familiar with. We're also likely to see some further consolidation of Web 2 technologies. So the platforms that are in today, there's going to be more acquisitions. I doubt Sitecore stopped its acquisition strategy. There's probably more to come over the years. But interoperability and portability are becoming increasingly what people need. No-code and low-code solutions are going to become more prevalent. So basically atomized structures where you can pick and choose what you want and place it all together. And then AI-driven marketing and support. Again, Sitecore's led the way in a lot of this over the years, and that's just going to become more and more and more the standard of doing things. So can one platform do it all? Nope. Should it try to? Nope. Why? I genuinely believe it's not a healthy strategy. You know, no one system can do it all, not now. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, when the world was a simpler place, maybe, but not today. There's lots of great technologies out there that clients and us as agencies want to use. Greenfield projects are really rare, and I think this is the key one. We very rarely get the chance to go in and implement technology from scratch. There's always 4 or 5 other systems in play. Some of them have got long licenses left on them. We can't just rip out the old and put the new in straight away. That's a really key point. So we need to have technologies that allow us to do step change rather than whole-scale transformation in one go. Interoperability and scalability are more important than a rich feature set. Our clients need agility, so the freedom to adapt their tech stacks, and that might be in response to the next coronavirus, and we need to suddenly save costs. We need to be able to turn off a subscription, or it might be, something's going on in the competitive marketplace with your competitor, and you need to react and try and get ahead of them. So yeah, we need that agility, and the future's decentralized. This is the key point. Technology architecture should be aligned to this trajectory. And we've got to just accept that the world is going to be componentized, and that's the future. So the rise of the composable DXP. So for those, I appreciate we've got a mixed audience, some technical, some not so technical, I guess. So just at very high level, these are super high level diagrams, as you can tell, of the difference between the two. So the single solution DXP is the classic kind of monolithic structure that we've kind of all worked closely with over the past decade or so, where one system is kind of is managing all of these different elements, but then is also quite tightly wedded to the website, and a lot of the front end is driven by the platform itself. And then we move across to the composable architecture, which is a separate set of services, but then with basically the ability to have complete separation between the front end and the back end. So this is, if you just see this as an API layer to the outside world, so basically this experience layer could be anything from a smartwatch to a smart fridge, whatever the next device is. So just looking a quick comparison between the two, because both are still relevant in today's market. So the single solution DXP, obviously it has fewer licenses to manage, makes that a bit easier for procurement processes. It's easier sometimes for small teams as well, particularly if those people in the teams have got other day job, they're not solely web people. We often get that in the likes of, you know, maybe the third sector, charitable sites, things like that, where the website is a small part of what these people do. There's a faster learning curve with one system. We've only got to go on one training course rather than 5. And it's quicker to develop and deploy sort of based on the fact it's this simplified architecture. But the cons of all of this are it has some limitations in its feature set. As I say, it can never be the best at everything. So if you're wanting kind of best of breed, this model probably isn't right anymore. It's often clunky, can be often clunky and hard to use based on the fact that it's some of these systems are, as I say, in the mature state of products that were developed some time ago. It's expensive to support, host, upgrade, and there have been issues across all platforms like this with scale. So when implementing personalization at scale personalization needs to be delivered via CDN level, and some of the classic hosting architectures have not lent themselves for this to scale so well. But this is the most important one, really, is it ties the client to a single tech stack, and that's not healthy for the business or for the market in general. And it's not purely designed for omnichannel. These platforms are primarily web systems. That's what they were built for in the initial instance. So the composable DXP on the other side, API first, truly multi-channel. This is the key thing, right? So no matter where this content's going, what channel you're selling your products on, those set of APIs can serve up and be configured as you need. You only need to buy the features you need. So everything you acquire is in use day to day. It's not that platform that's sat on, I think, we really must get to use that at some point. We've paid for the license. You don't have those pressures. It makes it a bit easier for the marketing guys just to learn incrementally. And then SaaS products require no hosting and maintenance. So a lot of these services now are subscription-based, sort of software as a service solution. So whilst it might be a little bit harder to get set up and get trained, the actual maintenance of these platforms is much lower because you're not responsible for servers and CDNs anymore. You're just responsible for hooking into an API. These are built to perform at scale, flexible and future-proof. But yeah, more licenses to manage, more platforms to learn, more integration and testing is required. And the initial setup, while we all get used to this new way, is going to be a little bit more complex. But obviously, agencies over time will build up connectors, they'll build up their own tools to kind of fast track some of the development on common platforms. So is there still a demand for a single solution DXP? Yes, sometimes. And I think I put a lot of thought into what's the most appropriate tech stack. So in my previous role as a solutions director, I was always having to look at which platform to put in where, what's the most appropriate technology stack based on a whole range of factors. So this diagram sums it up quite nicely. If you imagine this line across the bottom here is complexity of requirements. So this is really just how sophisticated is this platform and how sophisticated are the tools and things that you're wanting to, or the campaigns that you're wanting to run, the analytics that you're wanting to get from it, the insights, all of that. And then up the side is generally around volume, and that's the kind of volume of traffic, but can be volume of other things as well. So what this is saying over here is that the composable sweet spot is really good at simple sites. So you could just have a headless CMS powering a blog, and that's perfect. But then on the other side, it could be a super complex travel operator that's pulling APIs left, right, and center, really competitive industry, super season spikes, and they need the best of everything and the top performing of everything. And then the sweet spot for the kind of the single solution is the more mid-size. So we want a site that can do some personalization. We perhaps want some email email campaigns to be sent, but we don't have a big team. We don't have the biggest budget, and we don't need best of breed. What we just need is more about one system to do it all, because we've got a small set of people, a small team of people within the business to run this platform. So either end of the scale, composable, mid-size, often the single solution is still good. What I would say is, with Sitecore, given the level and most of the clients with Sitecore these days are enterprise, we're all targeting the enterprise space. Increasingly, this model is going to be appropriate for, 70% plus of the projects, I would say. So why do we love this Composable DXP as an agency? Well, it's language agnostic from a front-end perspective, so it gives our UI devs the chance to explore all these new frameworks, React, Node.js, all of this. So these guys can come in with that experience. They don't need to learn the CMS. They just need to be able to hook into an API. All front-end devs can do that, or good ones. It allows us to personalize at scale. So a lot of our clients are in sectors like sport, where there's huge seasonal spikes. And we want to be able to do cool stuff during them spikes. So the Open, for example, we were getting, I think it was like 3 or 4 million unique visits in a weekend. And we wanted to serve personalized content to them. So we have to make sure that the systems can handle that. Future-proofing solutions. So in my function, I need to make sure that when we assess the project that we've done and the implementation we've done in 3 years' time, that the clients had ROI and that and that we've made the right choices. And I think the fact that with this model, we can swap and change systems means that we get a lot more lifespan out of our implementations. The architecture is protected, so static files hosted over a CDN are kind of super secure, because there's no access directly to databases and things like that. So we've got clients who get under a lot of cyber attacks, and this architecture lends it really well for that, because the CDN just blocks off all access to the back end. And it unlocks opportunity. So this is a great example here. So this was back in 2019, before we built the new platform for United Rugby on a kind of composed stack. And what this has allowed us to do is to use the same CMS and content to deliver both the website and app from a range of services that are being provided. So, New World Sitecore. I've called it a drone's view because there's been a lot communicated this week, and hopefully this just provides that high-level summary of where we're at. What I really like about this model is it's completely scalable in all directions. So these APIs can become richer and richer, and likewise we can add new ones. So I'd be very surprised if within the next couple of years we're not getting crypto wallet integration or NFT platform integration APIs, things like that. They're all coming without a doubt. And then third-party services that we can just hook into anything, whether it's a cookie platform, whether it's a payment provider, data feeds, reviews engine, community platform. These can all just be added to the mix and go out to any of these channels, and it's unlocked opportunities for things like digital signage in stadiums for us, and things like that, where we can push content to things that we'd never really have been able to before with classic CMS. So what's the journey to get to a Sitecore-orientated composed DXP? So for existing clients, this is a chance to pivot your roadmaps and begin isolating specific functions. So if a full rebuild's due, then great. Put the new tech in straight away, but it's most likely that this is going to be an iterative program of work that you'll slowly evolve to over a period of time. And we would very much expect hybrid solutions will be the norm for a couple of years now, where maybe you've broken off your digital asset management system, or you've broken off your user database, but you're still using classic Sitecore XP, and then over time maybe you'll move to Content Hub and what have you. For new clients, the chance to adopt a composed stack from day one. So this is exciting. Obviously, if you are in a rare opportunity of a greenfield project, then that's fantastic. It's a case of just carefully selecting these additional partners that we add to the mix, though, making sure that we go with specialists over generalists, and usability over features. We don't want to replace the old world with lots of difficult to use platforms. You know, we need to keep, the whole focus needs to be ease of use, interoperability. So just finally, Garrett's innovative method for thriving in these terrible seas has become the de facto way of surfing at Nazaré. They now have World Surf Championships there, and it's been adopted by all of the leading lead surf teams around the world. So I guess now's the time to ask yourself, could your tech stack get your business through whatever nature throws at it? And if it can't, you can find us at unrivaled.com. I'm not sure how we're doing for time.
Thank you so much, Tom. I found that extremely insightful. And frankly, it feels like a bit of a revolution with regards to the way that we all work, the way we all think, and what the future holds for our businesses. I'd like to start with a question, and then I'm going to throw it out to the audience. Okay. So watching you talk through all of this and seeing this great surfing wave and the risk that Garrett took to achieve that extraordinary feat, my question to you really is that it might be great that you've got the freedom to break everything out of the box and do what you want and use all of these composable elements. But what should clients do at scale to mitigate risk?
I think it's break it up to its component parts. So don't try and do the whole thing on day one. Look at the priority areas. And I think if it was me, I'd certainly be looking at customer data platform and user management first. Get your data clean, get your data in a usable state, and get it available for all systems to use. And I think that would be the first starting point. And yeah, it's a step change. I think the biggest risk is not doing this. Because if you don't do this, you know, you're going to get left behind over the next sort of, 5 years or so.
Thank you. Does anyone else have a question they'd like to ask? Okay, well, I've got more. I'm rather putting you, on the back foot here, but hey, you obviously are capable of talking about this in depth. So I'm thinking about change in action. Mm-hmm. So we all live in a world of change in action all the time. There's never a moment where we can pause for breath before the next thing comes along and we need to deal with that. Mm-hmm. How can clients ensure that their people have an agile mindset that can cope with that always-on change culture?
Mm-hmm. I think it's a case of listening to the market and don't hide away from change, don't be frightened of change. I think it's attend events like this, speak to the people architecting these platforms, understand the drivers behind them, because I think you'll very quickly get a business case together to implement some of these changes if you can demonstrate the impact they're going to have on the business. If you start unlocking new channels through doing this, or open up to, if you say that you can get your digital platform to last 5 years longer than the last one, then you're going to see the benefit. So I think it's make yourself aware of what's going on and go with it. Don't fight against it.
And my final question is around data. Mm-hmm. You talk about people or clients ensuring that their data is managed to be able to actually take advantage of the features and functions that are within the new composable models. Mm-hmm. That from the inside out makes a lot of sense, but from the outside in, there's also that question of which tools that you can now apply to your centralized systems are going to be the most efficient and effective to run rapidly at scale. Mm-hmm. So when you talk about priorities, are you also talking about looking at what those features are and how readily they could become actionable within your overall roadmap? Yeah,
so absolutely. So platform selection is really key, and I think that's where it's definitely worth leaning on an agency or an architect or a consultant who's familiar with these technologies. It's the obvious stuff with things like this. Check the case studies, critique them, scrutinize them, actually ask for, find out from the users of these platforms, make sure they are, able to deliver on what you need. I don't know if Kate or Jeremy had anything to add, but
well, I'm sure they will, but obviously they are speaking next, so I think we shall allow them to take the stage after we have a break. But before we do, I'd just like to thank again Tom for such an insightful presentation, and also to mention to anyone who's here who hasn't seen it, or anyone who is live streaming today, that there's a fantastic piece that actually has driven this presentation today that went live on the homepage of Marketing Week today. Oh, so if you want to read through it again, please do go to Marketing Week and you'll see this piece in more detail there. But for now, I would just like to thank Tom again, and also to say to anyone who's watching on the live stream that we're going to take a break, we're going to have some food, and then we're going to be back with two of our wonderful MVPs for Sitecore who have been at Symposium this week, and they're going to give a replay of the key features, functions and news from Sitecore Symposium for anyone who missed some of those talks, which I'm sure many people did because there were so many to choose between, but also just to give you a really good, quick overview of what is in the future roadmap for Sitecore. Thank you very much.